When politicians talk about bills and budgets, they like to hide behind numbers. They throw around percentages, projections, and economic forecasts like it's all just math. But John Stewart reminds us it's never just math, it's a reflection of what and who we value. Every line item in a bill, like Trump's so called big beautiful tax plan, isn't just about revenue and expenditures. It's a moral decision. Declaration. It says this is worth protecting and that can be sacrificed. And when you look at this bill through that lens, it's not hard to see where the priorities lie. Because when billionaires get a break and schools get a cut, that's not an accident. That's a choice. When hedge funds get loopholes preserved but public healthcare funding shrinks, that's not a miscalculation. It's a message. And the message is clear. If you're rich, this government is built to serve you. If you're not, good luck. John Stewart has always had a way of cutting through the noise and exposing the human cost behind policy. And here he's doing the same. He's not just talking about abstract economics, he's talking about the family that can't afford insulin because their medical deductions vanished, the single mom working two jobs who now pays more because the tax code stopped caring about child tax credits unless you make six figures. He's talking about the American dream being sold off in pieces while the sales pitch still promises greatness. It's easy to miss this if you only look at the surface. If you just listen to the press conference or the rally, you'd think this bill was some kind of gift basket for the everyday American, wrapped in patriotism, labeled with slogans. But underneath, it's the same old pattern. Help the powerful, hope the rest stay too distracted to notice. Stewart wants us to notice. Word, Creep Stewart. First, Creep Stewart. He wants us to understand that these decisions, quietly passed, loudly celebrated, are about more than numbers. They shape our daily lives. They determine which communities rise and which fall behind. They tell us in no uncertain terms who matters in this version of America. And if you don't like that answer, you'd better start asking louder questions. There's this moment Jon Stewart captures perfectly. This gut level realization that while some people are clinking champagne glasses, others are counting every last dollar just to make rent. That's the real divide this bill deepens. Not just in numbers, but in lived experience. On paper, Trump's tax bill looks like progress. Stock markets up, business confidence high, corporate profits through the roof. But who's actually smiling? Who's sitting at the table when the pie is being carved? It's not the single mom working 50 hours a week at a job that barely pays enough to cover groceries. It's not the teacher buying their own classroom supplies because education budgets keep getting slashed. It's certainly not the warehouse worker whose job was outsourced right after a corporate merger, only for the company to get a fat tax. No, the smiles belong to the ones who were already winning. CEOs, hedge fund managers, real estate tycoons, the people whose wealth doesn't come from punching a clock but from capital gains and clever accounting. They got more, a lot more. And everyone else? Well, they were told to be patient, told that maybe, just maybe, something would trickle down. But how long are we supposed to wait for the trickle? Because for most Americans, it's been decades of waiting. And the only thing that's really flowed downward is the burden. More costs, less support, more hustle, less stability. Stewart lays this out not as a partisan attack, but as a plain human truth. There's a fundamental imbalance in who gets help and who gets hollow promises. And here's the worst part, it's dressed up as populism. As if this bill was made for the working class, as if it was designed to lift the little guy. But that's the genius of the branding. Call it big and beautiful. Say it's about jobs. Say it's about fairness. Wrap it all up in the flag and blast it from a podium. Meanwhile, the wealth gap widens, wages stay flat. And the people who keep this country running, the bus drivers, the nurses, the line cooks, get told that their sacrifice is just part of the plan. Jon Stewart isn't buying that. And neither should we, because the truth is, it's not an accident that the rich are getting richer. It's not a fluke that corporations see windfall gains while middle class families see pennies. It's policy, it's design, and it's justified under the illusion that we are all benefiting. But if you've ever stood in line at a pharmacy and had to walk away because the copay was too high, if you've ever opened your paycheck and felt more tired than proud, then you know, this bill wasn't made for you. It was made for them. And until we stop confusing Wall Street's victories with Main Street's success, we'll keep cheering for policies that only cheer back at the top. There's a phrase politicians love to dust off when they're trying to sell you something that doesn't actually help you. Trickle down economics. It sounds innocent enough, kind of poetic, even like something good is slowly, inevitably going to find its way to you. Like if we just help the wealthy get wealthier, they'll turn round and reinvest in the rest of us out of the kindness of their hearts or maybe guilt. But John Stewart, as always, pulls the curtain back because here is the truth. Trickle down doesn't trickle. It floods the top and evaporates before it ever reaches the bottom. We've been sold this same fairy tale for 40 years. Give tax cuts to corporations and they'll create jobs. Slash taxes for the wealthy and they'll raise wages. Deregulate industries and competition will magically make life better for everyone. That's the pitch. But let's look at the reality. Most companies didn't take their tax savings and pour it into employee salaries or infrastructure. They bought back stock, they padded executive bonuses, they invested in automation. That doesn't trickle down. That cuts people out. John Stewart points out the absurdity with the kind of humor that stings because it's true. He shows us how the system is rigged to pretend it's helping while it's actually hoarding. And people keep falling for it because the promise always sounds so hopeful. Help the job creators and the jobs will come. But in practice, the only thing created is a wider gap. A disconnect so large that the people at the top don't even see those at the bottom anymore. They've built towers so high they can't hear the hunger below. And it's not just economic, it's psychological. People working 60 hours a week start to believe that if they are still struggling, it's their fault, that they just didn't work hard enough. But it's not a lack of effort, it's a lack of return. It's the system extracting everything from them while giving crumbs back in the name of growth. This isn't about hating success or punishing wealth. John's not saying we should resent those who've made it. He's saying we need to stop pretending their success automatically means ours. Because it doesn't. Not unless we build structures that ensure shared prosperity. Not unless we stop worshipping the illusion that the rich will save us if we just clap hard enough at their press conferences. There's nothing wrong with wanting a strong economy, but there is something deeply wrong with calling it a success story when only the first few chapters benefit. The rest of the book is being written by people who are working more and earning less, who are told to wait while they fall further behind. Trickle down economics is not a strategy, it's a distraction. It's a way to make inequality sound like generosity. And John Stewart is simply calling it what it is, a lie we've heard too many times, dressed up as hope but delivered as silence. John Stewart doesn't sugarcoat it. He calls it exactly what it is, a quiet war against the middle and working class, disguised as economic reform. Trump's big beautiful bill wasn't just a shift in tax brackets, it was a shift in who carries the weight of this country. And the ones shouldering more now, they're not the billionaires. They're the teachers, the bus drivers, the freelancers, the families trying to keep the lights on. They're the backbone of America, the ones who were promised relief and instead got the bill. When this legislation was being sold to the public, it came wrapped in all the usual talking points: growth, jobs, fairness. But when you dig deeper, you realize that a lot of those promises came with strings attached. Deductions many working families relied on were quietly gutted. Healthcare provisions were destabilized. Long-term debt ballooned, setting the stage for future cuts to Medicare, Social Security, and public education. That wasn't an accident. That was a setup. The setup a calculated move to give the wealthiest Americans a massive windfall and balance the books on everyone else's back. John's strength has always been in revealing how these big moves play out in real life, not in theory, not on a graph, but in actual homes where people now face higher medical expenses because they can't deduct their bills, where a college student's parents are hit harder because the tuition credit they depended on suddenly vanished, where a firefighter sees his local department shrink because the city lost funding. And it's all traced back to a budget